Sometimes the idea people have is that you only UV map the model when the model is done or finished being made. I tend to find that as I UV map, I tend to find parts where I want to go back and change or improve things. In this case, it's this part here, and let's just switch into move mode so we can select these. And if you see that piece is, we could break it off and it's fine. We'll just move it up to here for now. But if you look at the model there, close in on that piece, we can use the zoom to polygons and spin it around there. You can see that there's a little bit of sort of overlapping verts that have just been nudged a little or something. A lot of this stuff only really shows up when you do fine UV map pixel by pixel. So what we'll do is we'll select these polygons and convert to arrow poly on the model, and that polygon selection will get retained. Now we've collapsed the UV mapping into the model, so it's still there, and we can now grab these points and press W and X to make sure. If you don't see your movement gizmo, it's probably because you pressed X by accident. And W is move for it, so we'll just wiggle it along. Now where do we want it to actually be? This X value here is probably good, so we copy that X value and paste it to this one by numbers, and so this value here is probably good, and we'll paste it to that one. This is fine. Now this model has actually been symmetried, so we can just take that value and shove it onto that value there, and just to make sure, copy and paste. Okay, so that was a little tidier. Now let's get back into what we were doing before. Right, so add a new Unwrap UVW in. It'll take everything we had before, and go edit, open UV editor. I think it's maybe Control E. So Control E is the hotkey for opening the UV editor, and just because I'm recording on the screen, I've just cropped a bit of 3D Max off, and use as much space for the recording as I can. It's really nice to UV map with two monitors, because you can have this window off on a separate monitor. But minimally, you need the UV screen space and a bit of area of the screen to watch your model, and it's good to drag out this panel here so it's too wide because of some of the extra features that we use, particularly the peel tools and stuff. They're displaying the peel seams and map seams, that's what gets hidden off out of the way. References, we'll come back to this. But anyway, maybe you start off with this, and then later on when you're doing some map seam stuff, you might pull it out wider. The idea is you can see what you're doing at all times. Okay, so this is just the scroll mouse button and middle mouse button drag to pan, and let's continue on. Again, right now I'm not really deciding too much about whether this should be here or whether it should be inside of this hole or whatever, or whether even this should be welded into that space. I don't think it matters right now what we do there. Probably what I'll end up doing is something like this, and I might even flip it. So to flip something, there's a few ways you can do it. You can rotate 90 degrees twice, or you can use these mirror tools. So mirror horizontally, and if you hold it down, you can mirror vertically. Okay. Actually, technically, it's a mirror and flip. There's flip and there's mirror. I'm not sure what much the difference is there, but you can kind of see that it's wider at the bottom. So let's do that again. You can jump in and use the tool like so. If you remember, I was telling you about selecting groups of squares. if we grab these three, we can't really select this one. A way around that, you can just control drag in, or you can go to move tool, which is W, and then you can click in there and back to the freeform tool. I guess there's a hotkey for that, but I just got in the habit of clicking on it. Alrighty, so let's start looking at some of these spaces. This and this look like they sort of want to be broken off. I should probably explain a bit about what this model is so that it makes sense to other people. Maybe rotate that around. They're mirrored to each other. This ship is like it's like the just the hull or the superstructure or core structure that a sort of modularized vehicle we built on. So the piece in here could be a bit of machinery, or at the top here there could be an installation of some kind. There might even be a roof fitting put on there. At the front here there might be a gun turret, or maybe some sort of radio equipment, or who knows what, and there might be landing gear. There's actually an elevator object that goes in here to go from the ground floor up to the top floor. So there'll be actually lots and lots of pieces of sort of hard fittings tagged onto this model. That's why it looks a bit weird. There's no real readability to this, which is kind of why I chose it for the example, because it is difficult to UV map this. You have to be very careful about why you're choosing certain polygon selections. Right? We've still got to unwrap open. Let's pop the window up. So for example, we've got this floor at the back, and so I made the model. Oops. I made the model, so I know that should be a floor. Alright, it's decided to catch up with me. So you know, if you know what you're doing, your selections will be easier. I've already mapped that piece in. Right, that's the sort of benefit of the box mapping. It did that for us. So let's say, for example, in the game the player gets this shell of a ship, and they might decide, well, you know, I want to swap out this floor for a different, you know, some sort of structure in there instead. All the pieces that face the same way is one way to do the UV mapping, but also kind of you know, think about modding modular structures that might be swapped out one for another. So we want to keep within a certain sort of frame that all this structure will be a swappable piece of kit or something like that. So it would make sense to UV map this bit by itself rather than say, you know, all these faces here and then that as well. You know, you could do it that way. There's no reason why not. It would paint up the same, but then it might make it harder for you to start jumping modular pieces back and forth. So I have not really yet done all the analysis of what I want the different pieces to be laid out like. Right? So we mentioned about pieces that face the same way. You can also do pieces that are contiguous, or sort of flowing. So you can see this surface flows down a 90-degree angle. Right? But what is that going to mean for mapping? Well, you can see it's already mapped out actually. Not too bad. What's going on here? Right, so this piece here, which is vertical, and that bit too, are overlapping the bit which is on top. You see some of the proportions have all gone, but we can read this, right? So the box mapping we did originally is not final. It's just to sort of let us understand what's going on. So what I'm going to do is grab these two pieces, and there's a button here called Rescale Elements, which will just give them their basic relative proportions. Although actually this looks like it shouldn't be like that at all. Looks like this one should be wider. Well, let's just do it. I'm going to use scale horizontally. It looks like it should be more like that, to be honest. And that one looks like it should be longer. So case of not trusting the computer. So when I grab this piece, you can see there's a blue line at the bottom of the next piece. That lets you know that these edges join. So I go to edge mode and double click, it selects the loop, and I can see it joins to that one. So I'm just going to quickly make them parallel, or tangent, whatever, overlapping, touching, and do a weld. It joins it all up. Alright. So once the green edges are joined, they go white because it's an interior piece. Right? Okay, so that'll pretty much wrap up the second video. Again, we just leave this piece of mapped piece till later. You'll notice actually I just took what had already been mapped and suited myself a little bit with it. I haven't really added much more. In the next video we'll start moving from back to front on the model to get through this as quick as we can. A lot of the steps from now on will be really repetitive versions of what we've already looked at. UV mapping is really kind of two pass. The first pass is just to lay stuff out, the second pass is to arrange it, and you end up using a lot of the tools over and over and over again.